don't fight, chasing shadows in the night. Promises made, but I let them fade. Caught in the cycle, I'm feeling betrayed. Round and round, I'm losing ground. Trying to break free, but I can't see. These negative patterns are haunting me. Nights turn to days, I'm losing my way. Thought I found peace, but it's led me astray. Chasing the high, but it only brings pain. The more I run, the less I gain.
Hey everybody, hey, and welcome to another session of Tarka Said Again. Thank you for joining us here today in the office. And as you can see, we have another guest, and her name is Rashida Randall.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you for joining us. And you all, she is out there in Atlanta. She's with us today, and we want to talk today about grief. Grief, we know, is a broad topic, but more specifically, when we talk about grief, we're talking about losing a loved one, whichever way that looks. It could be physically or just losing when we talk about the person being present, but more specifically, she has lost her mother. And she's going to speak with us about this because we know when we talk about also grief, it's something that's deeply personal. It's multifaceted when we talk about the process. And not only that, it affects people differently. So I'm going to turn it over to her, and hopefully you all get something from her sharing out with us today.
Yes, thank you. So, yes, I lost my mother back in 2007. So, it's been almost 20 years ago. So, I've had a lot of time to do a lot of healing. But ultimately, that's kind of what sparked me to write the book, or that's the experience that I used in the book, Letters to My Loved One, a grief journal. Um, because the grief process, well, first of all, I think it's important to note that loss doesn't have to be associated with death. It could also be, a breakup. Um, it can be a friend breakup. It can be the loss of a job. It's really just loss, and you can be
Mm-hmm.
grieving something before you actually lose it. If you think about maybe a loved one who may be transitioning and not haven't passed yet, but you're preparing yourself for it. You've already started the grief process. So I think that's what's kind
Mm-hmm.
of important to note. And I say grief is a universal language. Everybody just doesn't know how to speak it. Uh,
Right.
in that a lot of people don't realize that there is an actual process to grieve. I didn't know that there was a process to grieve prior to losing my mother. And I am someone that has experienced loss since the age of 5. I remember
Mm-hmm.
being at my paternal grandmother's funeral at 5 years old and losing multiple friends and family members along the way, but I didn't really know or understand grief until my mother passed away and I sought out therapy. I went to a grief therapist and he suggested that I write a letter to my mother, and that's just an alternative way of journaling, and that
Mm-hmm.
actually was very therapeutic for me. Now, to unpack a little bit about my grief process, it was fueled by guilt. I had a very, I guess you can use the word toxic relationship
Okay.
with my mother. I was grieving my family unit once she and my father split up when I was 11, 12 years old. And I felt a lot of abandonment. So at a very young age, I had a lot of issues going on. And so by the time my mother passed away, there was still a lot of things that I had not yet forgiven her for, or I had not yet
Mm-hmm.
had the opportunity to speak with her about it. Unlike my sisters who were able to have those conversations. So when she passed away, guilt didn't, well, I can't speak for them, but I don't think guilt affected them the way that it did me because I was always making myself too busy because I was grieving the loss of my family, and that
Mm-hmm.
I was putting up this wall thinking that it's going to protect me from her leaving me again or whatever. And ultimately, I ended up hurting myself because when she did leave me, we had unresolved issues. We had things that we
Right.
swept under the rug. And so that really kind of tormented me. And, my grief process, I didn't really understand a lot of the emotions that I was feeling, a lot of the things that were happening, the reactions that I was having until I sought out that grief therapist,
Therapist.
and he really sat
Yes.
me down and explained to me the grief process, and then now I had some place to channel those emotions. I
Mm-hmm.
understood it a lot better. So by the time, the next person passed away or the next experience of loss, I knew how to process it. And a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people just don't know, because a lot of people try to avoid grief, but they don't realize by avoiding it or trying to avoid it, that's part of the grieving process. You're still grieving.
Right. And it's not making it go away by avoiding it, but that's key that you said that. And just in thinking about all of what you said about the therapist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Seeking the therapist and how it helped you be able to channel those emotions and what you were feeling. Think about a child, a toddler, an infant, when things are bothering them or something is hurting, they don't know how to speak. They can't utter, they can't put words to it, right? So, guess what? They have those tantrums. I call them outer body experiences.
Mm-hmm.
They're throwing themselves on the floor, and you're like, what's wrong with him or what's wrong with her? Well, they can't verbalize what's wrong,
Exactly.
but they're trying to show you something, a manifestation that something is wrong. Come check me out, mommy. Come check me out, daddy.
They're crying out for help.
Right, exactly. So, talking about the therapist and working with the therapist and how that helped you to be able to channel it and deal with those emotions and what you were feeling out.
And that's a very taboo thing now. I mean, here recently, people are really embracing the whole taking care of your mental health
Mm-hmm.
and seeking therapy and having a therapist to go to. That's just all really coming to the forefront here more recently.
Right.
And so back then, I was like, I'm not going to therapy. Like, that's not going to help me.
Right.
But it
Right.
did. It really did. And so I love to see people really start to, embrace that now and seeking out that help. And a lot of times that people are grieving, and I see so many like social media posts where they're like, when you're grieving, you don't, nobody wants to hear that mess and stuff. Like, no, you, you should always have a village around you, whether they're there physically or whether they're a phone call away. You should always feel comfortable going to at least that one person that's going to sit there and hear you out. And even if that has to be a stranger,
Right.
it's just sometimes just talking to someone, sometimes just having someone be present. And I speak about that a lot in the book too. When you're grieving, it's the other way around. Like, people think, oh, I'm grieving, nobody wants to hear my grievances. But sometimes when you are in, especially when it's so new, there are those people who try to make it better, but they overly
Yeah.
try, and they mean well. They mean well. I don't take that away from anybody. Sometimes they mean well, but at the same time, it's like, can you just be present? Just be here. Let me
Yeah.
experience, because that is one of the biggest misconceptions about grief, is that you can avoid it, right? You can skip it. You don't have to go through it, but no, you have to go through those emotions. You have to feel everything that you are feeling. And sometimes we just need someone that's just going to sit there and just be present with us. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
listen. I don't want to hear
Right.
they're in a better place. Be strong. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to be strong right now. I don't have to be strong right
Right. Right.
now. I
Right.
don't have to
Right.
be strong. Part of being healing is being broken,
Right.
right? You have to be broken
Mm-hmm.
to heal. And I'm allowed to feel that. I'll come out of it in my own time, but for now, just support me and just be here. So,
Right.
if you don't have that person that you feel comfortable with, see a therapist. Seek out a
Mm-hmm.
therapist. Talk to a stranger. I guarantee you, your job probably has an EAP program, an employee assistance program that can connect you with
Right.
therapists for free. Look
Right.
into that. If you do have somebody, if you're not ready for that step yet, and you do have somebody that can just be that person that you lean on them until you're ready. But I highly encourage you to, and I'm not a grief therapist. I'm not a grief therapist.
Right.
I'm not quite a
But you've been through
coach. I'm
it.
just experienced. I'm just
Exactly.
very experienced, and I find myself kind of becoming that like coach, unofficial coach for people here lately. But you just definitely, I just say all that to say that you need someone in your corner. And while we're talking about the misconceptions of grief, the second one that I always say is that grief ends. There is no end point. It becomes more manageable. You learn to
Mm-hmm.
coexist with it. You learn to
Mm-hmm.
deal with it, and it may not feel like it. It may not seem like it,
Mm-hmm.
but it truly does get easier with time. And with
Yes.
time, again, is infinite. That doesn't mean in 6 months or in a year, or it took me 7 years to find peace with my mother's passing. And even
Mm.
still, now, almost 20 years later, I still find myself having those moments, and that's okay. That is
Yeah,
completely
I
okay.
agree. I agree. Because she was part of your foundation. And I like how you said there's no end. There's no end. And that's okay. But just figure out a way on how to deal or cope with it better. The fact that that was your foundation. She's the one that gave birth. So
Yeah,
getting over it ever, like, no, but doing better by it,
yeah.
forgiving,
Forgiving. That
I
was the
think
key.
that's key.
That was the key. If I had not have unlocked that part, I would have never found peace. If I had not forgiven not just her but also myself, I would
Mm-hmm.
have never found peace. I would probably still be going through the cycle today.
Mm-hmm.
And that just because I am healed now, it does not mean that, like you said, that I've gotten over it completely. It just means
Mm-hmm.
that, yes, I accept the fact that my mother is no longer here. I accept the fact that when I do want to talk to her, I just have to, look up in the sky or talk to the little red cardinal that lands on the
Tapping on the
Philippines.
window.
Yes, yes. Or in my dreams, I talk about that in my book too. So this is kind of crazy, but in the epilogue, I talk about how prior to me accepting peace, um, my mother would show up in my dreams a lot. She would show up in my
Okay.
dreams a lot, but she would never speak. Never speak. She
Mm.
was just there. I would talk to her.
Mm.
She would just smile at me, or it literally just wouldn't say a word. But once I found that peace, I hear her voice. I hear her laugh. I talk to her in my dreams. Like it's the craziest thing. It's the craziest thing.
Mm.
But yeah, there's no end point to it. There's no way to and your healing though is a mindset change. It has
Gotcha.
to be a mindset shift. You have to choose to be better. You don't have to necessarily be okay, because again, it's okay to not be okay, but you have to choose to be better with it, to accept it. My mother passed the last time I saw her was her 50th birthday.
Okay.
We went into a coma on 2 days later, and then 2 days after that, we took her off life support. Her funeral was the day before my birthday. For a
Mm.
while, I was very upset about that. And for a while, I didn't want to celebrate my birthday anymore. But in my healing journey, I had that mindset shift where I'm like, you know what? The last time I saw her, she was celebrating her birthday. She was happy. I've seen her like I had never seen her before. I hadn't seen her in years. As
Mm-hmm.
happy as she was, as vibrant as she was. So you know what? Maybe now I celebrate for the both of us. So
Mm-hmm.
now birthdays are a big deal for me again. And that also was something that was a part of my healing journey as well. Just changing that mindset. Okay, maybe I'm not sad on my birthday, or in that 2 week time frame where her birthday and my birthday crossed paths. But now I celebrate it because that's what
Mm-hmm.
she was doing the last time I saw her.
And I like that you've taken something that was once negative and turned it into something positive. So that goes back to what you said, that mindset, your attitude towards something. And I always use the example when we talk about attitude or the problem, it's like the problem isn't the problem. The problem is your attitude about the
Mm,
problem.
yes.
So I like how you mentioned that. However, I do want to ask this question and let me know if I've worded it improperly or if I'm wrong or whatever the case is. But for those that are listening and watching, triggers, like what does that look like? Is it okay to have triggers, things that you might see or maybe represent? Is that still a such thing in this ongoing process?
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, grief never ends. It's still there. You
Mm-hmm.
still it's just in the background and it's very sneaky and it pops up at any time. And so
Gotcha.
yeah, there can certainly be something that I might see or that one might see or hear or experience that might remind them of that thing that they lost or that person that they lost. And so it absolutely will trigger some sort of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's certain songs that I hear, like songs that my mother really loved, that, and it reminds me of growing up with her. And it's like, oh, okay. And I might have my little moment, and that's that. Writing this book was a trigger for
Mm-hmm.
me.
Gotcha.
But I found healing again as I'm trying to help others heal. So there are definitely certain memories or things that can be unlocked that could be a trigger, and it's really up to you how you react to them now. Maybe
Right.
8 years ago, 8, 9, 10 years ago, I would hear Tupac, "Dear Mama." I can
Okay.
remember like literally one time being at a party and that song came on and I'm just like in the middle of the floor. And mind you, I'm not dancing, but I'm just kind of in my zone. I'm hearing the words, but there's tears just rolling down my face.
Mm-hmm.
Heard the song on Mother's Day and I'm rapping along with them. It was fine. The triggers will trigger at certain times.
Mm-hmm.
And your reaction to them may differ every time.
Gotcha. Just wanting to let the people know that that's a sense of normalcy. It's
Absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
And it's also normal too to like even though there is a process to grief, there's literally a stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You don't experience them all
At the
in
same
that order.
time.
You might experience them all at once, but you don't
Okay.
necessarily go from one stage to the next. You might be experiencing two stages at one time and then jump to stage 5 and then back to stage 3. It is
Mm,
literally a ball of emotions.
got you. I do remember from the event that we attended a few weeks back, you talked about bargaining
Mm,
when we talked about those stages because we know like denial could be a stage. We know that anger or that angry part could be even acceptance.
yeah.
So there are different types of stages as you're mentioning, but you talked about bargaining. Can you give us a little bit more information
Yeah.
on that stage, please?
Bargaining is the one. That one tore me up big time.
Okay.
That is where and it depends on your situation. That's where the guilt lies. That's where you are you're you're basically trying to bargain with yourself, a higher power, God. I'm gonna say God, but I try to
Mm-hmm.
be respectful
Mm-hmm.
and whoever
Right.
you
For
believe
others.
in, whoever whatever you believe in, but a higher power. You're trying to bargain with them. I'll do this if you just bring my loved one back, or
Mm,
if I had done X, Y, and Z, the outcome would have been different. I
mm,
remember right before my mother passed away, my uncle passed away. And I moved. I was living in New York City at the time, and I felt like I couldn't get home fast enough. And that I ended up having to get on a Greyhound bus all the way from New York to Indiana. And that whole 20 something hour drive, it was dry. It was literally eating me up because I'm like, I should have been here. I should have been here. But if I was here, what would have changed? What really would have happened differently? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
the outcome was already written. We
Right.
think that we can change things if we would have just taken this person to the doctor a day earlier, or forced this
Mm-hmm.
person to go to the hospital, or like for me, it was, I wish I would have spent more time with my mother when she was
Right.
calling me, asking me to pick her up and drive across town and do this, that, and the other. I should have done that. If I would have done that, we wouldn't be here now. We
Mm-hmm.
probably still would have been where we were, but maybe, I wouldn't have had the guilt.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we would have been able to have the talk. Maybe, things would have been different for us as far as our relationship goes. But
Right.
ultimately, there really was nothing that I could do to actually change the outcome. And so that is a lot of what you're experiencing in the bargaining stage. It's a lot of pleading and begging God to bring your loved one back, or I'll do better if you bring them back. I'll do this, that, and the other. So that's what the bargaining stage is. It's probably one of the toughest stages to deal with. At least it was for me.
Right. And it also kind of make me think of going back to like the guilt part of it too.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
just leading back to that.
You'll drag me all up and through that stage.
But the fact that you're able to talk about it now, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's the power in it and the growth. I'm sure you've seen the growth in you from the stages you talk about, and just being able to share your story with the people and your book. Make sure you put that in the camera one more time so they could get the title, Letters to My Loved One.
Yes.
Check her out.
Yes, it's available on Barnes& and Noble, Books A Million, and Amazon. And if you are in the Atlanta area, it is also at a Better Today Books and Boutique in Marietta, Georgia.
Yes, yes, thank you. Are there any other final statements that you would want to share with the people? Final words?
Absolutely, and it's what I always say, and I always tell everyone: give yourself grace, give yourself permission to breathe. That's it, and that's all.
I love it. Hey, final words, I call it the drop the mic a moment, um, short and sweet.
Yes.
And I definitely appreciate you sharing your story with us because, as you've said, the different stages of grief. When we talk about whether it's emotional, whether it's physical,
Yeah.
or the behavior, those are definitely some things that take place in those stages. And you sharing that is normal to go through that. Long as you speak, put some words to those emotions.
Yes, absolutely. And I just wanted to preface though, the book, you guys, it doesn't tell you how to grieve. I do break down all of the stages so that you can recognize what you are feeling and experiencing, and then I share a little bit of my experience with that particular stage. And I'm gonna be the first to tell you, I didn't do everything right. There is no right or wrong way to grieve.
Yeah, yeah.
I was mean and angry and not the best person during this process, but I'm very transparent about that in this book. And I did that way because I want you all to know that it is okay to feel what you are feeling, and
Hmm.
don't let anybody else tell you
Definitely.
otherwise or how to
Right,
feel, because that's the
right.
first thing that people like to say, because it's one of those what I call cliche phrases that we think that we have to say. The be strongs and it'll be okay, and no, I'm allowed to be selfish in this moment. I'm
Hmm.
allowed to want to have my loved one back here with me at least one more time if that's what it's going to take to get me to feel better. I'm allowed to have that. And people think that those words are are comforting. And again, I'm sure there's no ill intentions and they mean well by it. But when you are someone that is grieving, sometimes we just want to be left with our emotions. And so
Right.
that was ultimately the premise of the book. I just wanted to share my experience to let you know you're not alone in feeling what you are feeling. And you might even see some things from my experience that you're experiencing that you didn't even recognize that you're experiencing. So,
Mm-hmm.
yes,
Right.
give yourself grace.
All righty. Well, I definitely appreciate you joining me today in the office of Tarka Say It Again. And definitely, I've gotten something out of it. And like you said, me experiencing or hearing some of the things, taking it back to my book of addictive patterns, how we always talk about those things could be positive or negative, finding yourself repeatedly doing some things, whether it was for the better or for the positive or for the success, or was it for the failure, a contributor to the failure of it. So that's always key no matter what it is that we go through. And again, thank you. So everyone that listened and watched today, please like, share, and subscribe on YouTube. You all have a good one.